My first marriage ended because I cheated. How do I tell my new fiance?
Honestly, you should have told her that like pretty early on.
A party of 3 involving 1, 2, 3 people led to the end of my 28-year-old female first marriage. My new fiance, 29 male, doesn't know the whole story. How do I tell him? I got married to my high school boyfriend young. I was only 22 at the time. I would have liked to have waited longer, but I got pregnant, so we got married. My ex was my first boyfriend, first kiss, first spicy sleep, first everything. And I was the same for him. By the way, this comes from YouThrowAway83659 on the ROK Storytime subreddit. So about 3 years into our marriage, my husband, now ex, began to hint about spicing up our spicy sleep life as it had become rather dull. He suggested a party of 3, and I assumed that he meant with another girl. I declined because I'm not really into girls, but what he actually had in mind was another guy. Turns out, one of his secret spicy desires that starts with a K was watching me with another man. I again declined, said I wasn't interested, but he was persistent and eventually wore me down. If I'm being honest, I was a little curious, having only been with one guy my whole life. I agreed. We found a guy online and set the whole thing up. I won't go into details on the whole event, but I had the best spicy sleep of my life that night.
Oh, rough, man.
My ex seemed to enjoy himself as well. Meeting up with this guy, we'll call him Tim, became a regular occurrence. Things were good for a while, but turned bad in a hurry. My ex grew jealous of Tim and I and began to question our relationship. Eventually, my ex told me we were done seeing Tim, and when I said I didn't want to, that was the beginning of the end for us.
It's not going to work out if you're not all on board.
Yeah. If you're like, actually, I want to keep having spicy sleep with someone, and your partner's like, no, I'm not on board with that. So we tried to make it work for the sake of our daughter, but we were broken at that point. We got divorced, and I ended up dating Tim for a while, but that ended when I realized we weren't compatible outside of the bedroom.
She was like, he was really good at one thing, and that's about it.
Fast forward 3 years, and I'm engaged. We will call my fiance Alex, and I haven't told him exactly what led to my divorce. He knows I left my husband for another man, but I left out the rest of it. I'm ashamed of the whole thing and really don't want Alex to see me that way. What way? It's not like, again, it's not like,
I mean, you didn't really,
cheat,
it wasn't cheating.
as we know.
Yeah, you had a party of 3, but that's consensually. I think you could tell. I mean, I would, if it was cheating, I would say that you have to tell your partner when it gets like somewhat serious, I think. Like maybe, I don't know, when do you tell, like when would you say that? Like I would say like if maybe a couple months into the relationship.
Depends on the relationship, but
yeah.
if you're about to marry someone and they don't know a big part of your dating history,
Yeah.
it's just concerning. Like I would hope that anyone you are trying to marry, you could be completely transparent with them, and if you can't, then that shows like a lack of safety.
Yeah, this one I think you just need it. I don't think your partner would be mad.
I really love my fiance. I don't think I knew what real love was until I met him, but I'm terrified of what he will think of me if he knows all my past. I'm also not 100% certain my ex won't let any of this slip out. The divorce wasn't smooth, and there have been many fights over custody. My ex is also pretty jealous of Alex as well. My ex has photos and videos of me and Tim, and I'm not sure he's above sending it to Alex. He hasn't yet, but he has threatened it when we fight.
But you didn't do anything wrong. This is just your past relationship.
Update. So I told my fiance last night, thank God. Guys, why are we keeping things from our partners?
Just tell him.
Be transparent. That's what a relationship should be built on, trust and intimacy. Overall, he took it well, but he did have a lot of uncomfortable questions that I really didn't want to answer. But I decided that I was done lying and hiding the truth, so I answered everything honestly. Alex had never really pressed me for a lot of detail on what happened with my ex. I told him that I fell for another man I met and realized there was something wrong in my marriage. I told Alex that it was a mistake and I was ashamed of how I behaved, and he just left it at that. So now he wanted the whole story and every detail. Alex was mostly interested in what I was thinking throughout the entire ordeal. He wanted to know what made me choose Tim and why he was the only one I ever had slept with. The answer to that was that I wanted it to be just one guy at a time for safety. We both talked with Tim for a little while before we decided to go with him. We also ran a background check just to be certain this guy wasn't a felon. As for why I chose Tim, I didn't lie and said it was pure physical attraction. Tim was tall and fit, just a great body. from top to bottom. He asked what about Tim made our time together so good. I told him that it was really the taboo and the thrill that made it as good as I thought it was. I only learned that after I started dating Tim. The spicy sleep was still really good after we started officially dating, but it wasn't the mind-blowing experience it was initially over. Alex asked me if I was completely over Tim and if we still had any contact. Me and Tim haven't spoken in 2 years after we broke up when we continued to have spicy sleep every now and then. But when I met Alex, I stopped it. Tim would text me early in our relationship inviting me over for spicy sleep, which I always declined. I blocked him after he sent me a pic of his what one
Tim.
night while I was sitting next to Alex.
Tim.
We haven't had any contact since.
If you guys were officially together, you definitely should have told Alex, like, hey, my ex keeps reaching out to me and blocking me.
Imagine if you're Alex and I am, and you see an eggplant on someone's phone, on your partner's phone, and they go, I could explain.
Yeah. It's not what you think.
Yeah.
No, I think you should always, if that's happening, because you didn't do anything. So just tell them. Just be like, hey, this happened. Just wanted to let you know I blocked them.
Alex asked if my feelings changed for my ex because I had better spicy sleep with Tim, but that wasn't the case. It seems like Alex is getting a little insecure here.
I think so. Because
at first
it's
I was
weird
like,
to ask all of those questions for a past relationship.
At first I was like, oh, he's curious, and it's like, it's actually an interesting story of like,
yeah.
But now it seems like it's more insecure probing.
Yeah, it's like, why was Tim so good?
Yeah. What about his body? Like, what about the size of anything was good? Huh?
Was he better than mine?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit weird to ask that much information about a previous relationship.
I mean, I get it. It's coming from insecurity, but it's just, it doesn't create like a good vibe.
No.
The spicy sleep was bad with my ex because I was no longer attracted to him. I'm not sure I was ever very attracted to him, actually. I was 15 when we met. He was older and gave me tons of compliments, told me how pretty I was. So we started dating, and I liked having a boyfriend, so we stayed together. I eventually got pregnant, so we got married. Tim just made me realize that I wasn't very attracted to my ex. So it wasn't like Tim was amazing.
Yeah.
It just, like, the bar was already
Tim
so
was
low.
Slightly better.
Yeah. And I ultimately agreed to stop seeing Tim while we went to counseling, but my ex just couldn't get over that I wanted to keep seeing him. I admitted that I never really had good spicy sleep and was initially resistant to giving it up. I am ashamed of that, but agreeing to stop immediately wouldn't have saved our marriage. My ex was very jealous by the point, obsessed really, and we were already fighting a lot. The marriage was dead from the very first time I had spicy sleep with another man. Probably before, but definitely then. I don't know if that was the moment.
Well, I think that was the moment that OP realized.
Sure.
I think the relationship was probably like kind of heading in that direction, but then
like
this
it gave
was,
the
like,
first reference
eye-opening
experience.
Yeah.
And after having that reference point of
Yeah, she was like, oh,
I can't go back. Yeah. The whole ordeal really did destroy my ex, and I felt terrible about that. My ex initially wanted full custody of my daughter, but we settled on shared custody. Thank God.
Yeah.
But eventually just stopped picking our daughter up.
What?
Oh, that's sad.
That's terrible.
He became unstable, and I now have full custody. My ex doesn't see our daughter very much anymore. It's really sad, and although he isn't blameless in all this, it is mostly my fault.
I mean, he's the one who initially started the party of three talk.
Yeah, and he's the one who, after the fact, decided to stop seeing his own daughter when he had
That's not your
all
fault.
legal right to see her. I'm not that person anymore, and I truly am ashamed of how I behaved. And if you just want to feel not ashamed, you should join us live on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitch every weekday at 3 p.m. PST. Just tap our profile. Finally, Alex asked if I was satisfied with our spicy sleep life.
See, now he's the insecurities.
Yeah. And if in the future, if things grew stale, would I want someone else?
Oh my gosh.
I told him that I'm more satisfied with our spicy sleep. I'm obsessed with Alex and insanely attracted to him. Who wrote this about me? Now I'm sure at some point when we get older, our spicy sleep may get a little stale, but there are ways to spice our spicy sleep without having spicy sleep with another guy. There's like at least 2 other options. My experience with that has permanently soured me on that type of thing. Alex did have a problem with my ex having the videos of me and Tim, but he doesn't know what to do about it. He also has no desire to see them. Good. Be interesting if he did, but I'm relieved about that too. So we are okay, and I just want to tell anyone that is considering something like this with their partner to really think it through before you get through with it. I learned that the hard way.
I mean, any sort of situation where you're bringing another party into your relationship should be talked about extensively and make sure that both parties are very enthusiastic about it.
I think it's just like if you've only been and only had any form of romantic or spicy experiences with one person, if you like bring in another, you're doubling that person's experiences and people that they've engaged with, and that kind of just opens up Pandora's box. I think there's opportunity, like there's ways that it could work. Obviously, like it was doomed that you never were fully attracted to the first partner, but yeah, it's just tricky. And
tricky.